Okay, so thank you for coming and welcome to my third speech on operant conditioning. The goal of this is to use the visual aid. So for my visual aid today, I will be using the whiteboard. Considering my last one was a live interaction with my daughter, which I would prefer not to do again. I learned my lesson from that, so to say. So for that purpose, I'm going to move you closer so that you can see. What I have is blue, and I don't know if you can really read that. I will try to use black. I might write over it for you. Can you see that? Okay. So, operant conditioning. The word sounds very scientific, maybe even a little fancy, but it is really just another word for teaching. And it is the simplest form of teaching because it is modeling. Many of you, especially if you're parents, know that the easiest way to teach a child something is simply by doing it. A child is more likely to learn how to swear once they have seen you swear. However, if you tell a child, don't pick that up, they probably will do it. Or if you tell them to go do something, go brush your teeth, you probably have to tell them 10 times before they go do it. So, which one is more powerful? The power of observation. So, operant conditioning is still that. However, it becomes more specific as you become and you do it more intentionally. So, how we can do it intentionally, and sometimes even unintentionally, is through reinforcement. Reinforcement is not always positive, like some people feel. It doesn't always mean rewarding somebody. Reinforcement is simply just something you get for doing something. Reinforcement could be, I go to work so I get paid. That's positive reinforcement, which is one of the kinds. There's positive and negative. So I go to work, I get paid. It encourages me and reinforces me to continue to come to work because I get paid. That's positive. If I come to work late all the time and I'm not dressed appropriately, I forgot my badge, and I get fired, or maybe something a little bit less severe. I get a warning and it goes on my employee record. That would be negative reinforcement. Now many of you are thinking, okay, she gets paid for coming to work, that's positive, that's good. And then the other part of you might be thinking, ooh, she gets a warning, that's negative, that's bad. When I speak of positive and negative, most of you probably might think bad and good. But I'm not. I'm speaking strictly scientifically and mathematically. Positive means that I am adding, and negative means I am taking away. So if someone is paying me to come to work, they are adding a behavior into my repertoire through reinforcement. So because I'm getting paid, I am more likely to continue the behavior of coming to work because I'm reinforced. It's adding a desired behavior. If I continue to come in late and I get docked pay, or I get a verbal warning, or I get a counseling, chances are that that's probably going to encourage me or reinforce me to show up on time and to dress appropriately. So therefore it is taking away my behavior to show up late. So negative reinforcement is taking away my behavior of coming in late by reprimanding me through this reinforcement. And getting paid is encouraging me to continue a behavior. So they're adding. Now, there's 5 specific schedules when you speak of operant conditioning. Many of you might know this in what we use. We use what? Come on, guys. ABA. We use applied behavioral analysis, which is a form from what B.F. Skinner used to use, which is what he discovered, which is the operant conditioning, and the schedules of reinforcement. And now he discovered there are 5 specific schedules of reinforcement. I'll speak about them in the level of independence. So the first one, which is the most intrusive, is continuous. Continuous means every time I see you do a behavior that I want you to do or I don't want you to do, I reinforce it. Every single time I tell you, Amanda, pick up that block. Great job. Here's a piece of candy, Amanda. And I ask you to do it again. Every time I see you pick up that block, you're going to get a piece of candy. This is hopefully going to shape and change your behavior to be able to do what it is that I ask. For most of us, we do it to teach the kids to follow directions, and then we slowly wean them off by going down the scale in the scheduled reinforcement to a fixed ratio. The fixed ratio schedule of reinforcement is based on the number of responses. So we might write up in a plan every 5th time that Amanda picks up the blue block, she gets a piece of candy. So it is a set number, it's fixed. Every time I do that. So it's no longer continual, it's no longer every time you do something I'm gonna hand you a piece of candy or your favorite truck. It's now becoming a step back, which is okay, now every 5th time you touch it, I'll give you something. And then we might wean them down further and do a varied ratio. So a varied ratio is whenever you feel like it. I could do every time for the first minute, and then I could be like, no, I'm gonna do it every 5th time. So you might touch it, I'll give it to you. Then 5 times later, I'll give you another piece of candy. Then 2 times later, Then 2 times later, I'll give you a piece of candy. It's varied, you don't know when it's coming. The most famous example of a varied ratio is what we call the slot machine effect. You keep pulling it, and you don't know when it's going to come, but it encourages you to continue pulling that slot because you never know, one of these days you might get a reward out of it. So this is one of the ways in which we shape a child's behavior, by weaning back how often we intrude on that behavior. And then it's no longer based on the amount of times that they do it, the amount of intervals, but time. So there's fixed interval, which an interval is based on time, and it's fixed. So say we have several kids on this plan where if they can be safe and have safe hands for 15 minutes, they get a token. For every 5 tokens that they accumulate, they can cash them out for a piece of chocolate or their favorite toy or 10 minutes of their favorite movie. That is a fixed interval. So for example, with AW, when we have, okay, for every 15 minutes that you can remain safe, we're going to give you a token. And after every 5, he cashes them out for a Kit Kat chocolate. That would be a fixed interval. The next, which is we wean it back even further, and we do a variable interval. Now this is a lot like the varied ratio, only now it's dealing with time instead of a set number of responses. So a variable interval is now, well, I'll give it to you because you're safe, good job. Then 10 minutes later, you're being safe, I might give you another one. Well, then you might be really safe for a good 30 minutes or hour maybe. And then maybe after an hour I'll give you one. And then maybe 5 minutes later I'll give you another token. Again, it's that slot machine effect where I'm going to keep pulling the slot and I'm going to keep doing what it is they want me to do because I don't know when I'm going to get reinforced. This is the least intrusive and the most natural. The only thing I can think of in our everyday life that is continual reinforcement would be for adults that have jobs, because it's predictable. You know when you're going to be reinforced. You continue to show up to work every single day because you get continually reinforced every other week by a paycheck. Other than that, most of our reinforcement as adults, or even in everyday life, because it's the most natural, is going to be a variable interval. Some days when you walk by people and you say hi, not every single time is someone going to say hi back. Maybe every third, maybe every time, you don't know. But you still continue to say hi to people. You still continue to be nice to people and polite and have manners, even though they might be rude, or someone might cut you off in the grocery store line, or flip you off if you're doing something else, or maybe they're greeting you with a smile. Maybe they paid for your lunch. But it doesn't stop you from being polite. So this is, operant conditioning is very naturally occurring in our everyday lives without many people even really realizing it. The only way people capitalize on that is to do it professionally for children, especially because this is the best way in which they know how to learn. is through observation, and modeling, excuse me, and examples. So this is mostly what we all do here. We sit down and we do this on a daily basis with a lot of our children. So I don't know if this is new information for you guys, but I thank you for sitting here and coming. And again, thank you, Professor, for listening to my speech on operant conditioning.